سلام ارادت، امیدوارم حالتون خوب باشه. لایو امشب در مورد حوزه حواس پرتی و ارتباط حوزه حواس پرتی با مسائل مختلف زندگی از جمله مدیریت زمان هست و امشب مهمان ویژه‌ای داریم از امریکا، آقای نیر ایال از اساتید نویسنده در خارج از کشور هستند که امشب میخوایم در مورد حوزه های مختلفی با خود.
Hi, dear Neil.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, doing good, doing good. How are you?
Very well. I'm trying to figure out how to put my phone in the position where it stands up with my camera at the same time so you can see me. Let's see. This is no trivial task.
Yeah, yes.
Hi.
Hi. How are things with you, Neil?
Salam alaikum.
Salam, yeah. Oh, good, good. You know Persian, yes?
I wish. No one's I know. Yeah, it looks like the internet's kind of cutting in and out.
Okay, good. First of all, Neil, if we want to start, thank you for everything. Thank you for your great book, Indistractable, and also your previous book, The Hooked. Here in Time Coach followers, we are working on different things, especially in time management area. And one of the things that is really important in our area of working is distraction. First of all, I would like you to tell me more about Indistractable.
Sure. So being indistractable means that you do what you say you're going to do. It's about living with personal integrity. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, good. So it's about doing what you say you will do. It's about living with personal integrity. So whatever it is that you say you want to do, whether that's being with your family, focusing on your work, playing video games, going on Netflix or Instagram, whatever it is that you decide to do with your time, being indistractable, doing things on your schedule and according to your priorities, not because of someone else's.
Okay, if I have heard you talk a lot about distraction and traction. Could you please unfold these two words to us?
Sure. So the opposite of distraction is not focus. The opposite of distraction is traction. They both come from the same Latin, which means to pull, and they both end in the same Latin, or in the same six-letter word, action, A-C-T-I-O-N. So traction is any action that pulls you towards what you want to do, things that you are doing with intent. The opposite of traction is distraction, anything that pulls you away from what you plan to do, things that you are not doing with intent. So this is important for two reasons. Number one, it's important because everything can become traction. If you want to do a particular activity, whether that's watching football on TV or reading the newspaper or being on Instagram, there's nothing wrong with it. So I reject this idea that some technology is hijacking your brain, that it's less of the way we could spend our time doing other things. No, anything you plan to do with intent, as long as you're doing it according to your values and according to your schedule, it's traction. Now, in the same regard, anything can become a distraction. So if we are checking out when we're supposed to be working on a big project or sitting or spending time with our family or our kids, that can also become a distraction if it pulls us away from what we plan to do. So you have traction, and on the other side, you have distraction.
Fantastic. Because these days, people are, sometimes people are into, technology, and their life is full of, everything, is in Instagram, Telegram, Twitter, and everything like this. And we have a program like Digital Detox. Are you into Digital Detox or no?
Not really. Not really, because
Ah.
so I used to be obese. I used to be very heavy set as a child, and I would go on these detoxes, these similar diets that said,
Yes.
okay, no sweets for 30 days, no fast food for 30 days. But then you know what happened on day 31, right? I would make up for lost time. And so
Yes.
this is why temporary diets don't work. Because if we set a
Mm.
temporary bound on the time that we will behave a certain way, what happens when that time is up, right? If we
Mm.
haven't figured out the real reasons why we get distracted, then we're just fixing a superficial problem. And so what I advise is to go deeper into why we get distracted as opposed
Uh-huh.
to whatever tools are in our hands. I mean, let's face it. Let's say we all went on a digital detox. Let's say that
Mm.
Zuckerberg tomorrow turned off Instagram. No more
Mm.
Facebook, no more Telegram, no more WhatsApp. Let's say it all stopped. Do we
Mm.
really think people would stop getting distracted?
For sure not. Something
Of
like
course
20,
not.
20 years ago, people were distracted like today.
Not just 20 years ago, try 2,500 years ago. Plato,
Yes. Yes,
2,500
yes.
years ago, Plato talked about akrasia, this tendency that we have to do things against our better interests. People have
Uh-huh.
always been distracted by one thing or another, whether it's gossip or sports or politics. They get into this stuff that they allow them to take them off track when it's not important for their own lives. And so the idea is, why do we get distracted? Why do we go off track? If we don't deal with that, first and foremost, we'll always find something to distract us.
I would like to talk more about, distraction and procrastination.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with these two words together?
Yeah. So procrastination is a type of distraction,
Uh-huh.
but not all procrastination, not all distraction is procrastination. So all
Yes.
procrastination is distraction, but not all. Procrastination is just delaying something that you wanted to do. So if you sit down at your desk and you say, oh, I'm going to work on that big project, but then you do something else, that's procrastination. But if, in my case, I sat with my daughter one afternoon. This is why I wrote Indistractable. I sat down with my daughter one afternoon and I wanted to be fully present with her. But instead of spending time with someone I love, instead I was on my phone. That was
Mm.
distraction. That wasn't procrastination. That was just a distraction.
Okay. Now I would like you to talk more about internal and external triggers.
Sure.
This is awesome. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So we talked about traction, we talked about distraction.
Distract.
Now, what leads us to one of these two things, an external trigger or an internal trigger? External
Mm.
trigger, these are the things in our environment, the pings, the dings and rings, all of these things in our environment that lead us towards or distraction. And they're not all bad. If your phone rings and it's a phone call you plan to take, or it reminds you to go to the gym, or do whatever it is you plan to do with your time, that's wonderful. It's leading you towards traction. But if it leads you to do something you didn't plan to do, like when I was with my daughter and my phone rang and now I'm on my phone on Facebook or Instagram as opposed to being fully present, well, now it's leading me towards distraction. But it turns out, as bad as those external triggers potentially are, most distraction does not start outside of us. Most distraction starts from within. These are
Mm-hmm.
called internal triggers. So internal triggers are these uncomfortable emotional states that we seek to escape from. And this is, in
Mm-hmm.
fact, the root cause of all human behavior. Everything we do is about a desire to escape discomfort, right? So
Mm-hmm.
physiologically, we know this is true, that if we feel cold, we put on a jacket. If we feel
Yes.
hot, we take it off. If we feel hungry, that doesn't feel good, we eat. And when we're stuffed, when we're too full, we stop eating.
Mm.
So those are physiological sensations. And of course, the same holds true for psychological sensations. When we are lonely, we check Facebook. When we're uncertain, we Google. When we're bored, we look at sports, we news, we gossip, we check Reddit, Pinterest, whatever. All of these tools, they satiate these uncomfortable sensations. So if we agree that all behavior is spurred by a desire to escape discomfort, that means that time management, fundamentally, time management is pain management.
Pain management.
Right. That we have to understand what we are looking to escape from if we are going to do what we say we're going to do and become indistractable.
Fantastic. You have talked more about a lot. I mean, a lot about scheduling. What do you say about, the distraction and also scheduling? What does it mean? And also please clarify the, difference between planning and scheduling, these two things.
Yeah, sure. So the first step to becoming indistractable is to make sure we master these internal triggers, that we have tactics that we can use to prevent us from getting distracted when we are likely to, right? So how do we deal with those internal triggers in a healthy way, as opposed to letting them lead us to distraction? The second step to becoming indistractable is to make time for traction. Meaning, if you don't plan your day, somebody is going to plan it for you. So you cannot call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from. I see so many people, they complain about how distracting everything is, and Instagram this, and Facebook that, and the news this and this. And yet when you ask them, well, what did you plan to do today? What did you want to get done? Let me see your calendar. There's nothing on it. It's blank. Yes. And so think about how much we guard our stuff. Right? We have home security systems, we put alarms on our cars, we put our money inside bank accounts behind vaults so it's kept safe. But when it comes to our time, hey, anybody can come take it. Take as much as you want. All you have to do is send a notification or tap me on the shoulder and hey, you got my attention. And this is one resource that everyone on earth, from Bill Gates to everybody, has the same amount of, which is the 24 hours in our day. And yet we give it away to anybody who wants it whenever they want it. And so this idea behind making a schedule is that we can turn our values into time, right? So becoming indistractable is really about living with integrity. It's about being honest with yourself. So if your values are to be physically healthy, okay, if that's one of my values, well, do you have time on your calendar for sleep? Do you have time in your calendar to exercise? If you say one of your values is to be a loving friend, is to be a devoted spouse, do you have time on your calendar with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends, or does it just happen when there's some leftover time? And when it comes to work, right, if your work requires you to reflect, to think at your job, do you have to think at your job? Well, look, you need time to think as well. That if we don't plan these things, they're not just going to happen. They're not just miraculously going to occur unless we make time for them in our day. Because in this day and age, if you have lots of white space in your day, you're not going to write your novel. You're not going to, do some side business. You know what you're going to do? You're going to check Facebook. You're going to check Instagram. You're going to waste that time unless you plan in advance what you want to do with it. And by the way, you can plan time for Instagram. You can plan time for Facebook. There's nothing wrong with that. But make sure you use it on your schedule, not on somebody else's schedule.
Fantastic. We have, if it was really great to talk much more about life values, because especially in Time Coach, we talk a lot about, values in action. Because we should, first of all, we in our lives, all of us should know our life values, because my life value might be different from yours, from any other person in the world, because it's like the fingerprint of mine. First of all, we should find it out. We should redefine it to ourselves, and then put the values in action in our daily schedule.
That's right.
Do you agree?
I totally agree. And I'm a little bit against, many people, they have these vision boards, they have the 5 years, they have these very grand perceptions of what they want to do in the future. But when it comes to next week, they don't know what to do. So I think as opposed to starting with these, big visions of the future and all these aspirations, how about we just talk about tomorrow? How would you like to spend your time tomorrow to live out your values? Do you have time to take care of yourself? Do you have time to grow your mind, to improve your body? Do you have time to be with your friends, with your family? Do you have time at work to do the things that are important? Let's start one day at a time. If we plan the input, the output will follow. What many people do is they just wish for some grand output, right? They want to have a best-selling book. They want to have a promotion. They want to have a wonderful relationship with their wives, their husbands, their kids, but they don't put in the input, the time to make those things happen.
Okay, good. I would like to I would like you to talk more about indistractable and creativity. How do you mix
Sure.
these together? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure with this idea you can go ahead with creativity, because creativity, when creativity comes, you know, we can talk about action and then creativity. People think that creativity comes and then you take action. But the thing is that it's just vice versa. You should take action and then creativity will go ahead. And take action should be with teeny tiny steps. The things that James Clear talk about it in Tiny Habits a lot. I would like
Yeah.
you to talk about it much more.
Yeah, sure. So the best way to illustrate this point is to share a story of what happened to me when I couldn't sleep. So for years, I would wake up every night at 3 in the morning. And you know, we all know that sleep is very important. It's very important for our mental health, for our well-being. It's very important. And when I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would start this rumination cycle where I'd start thinking in my head, oh my goodness, I'm not getting enough sleep, and if I don't get enough sleep, I'm not going to be at my best tomorrow, and if I'm not at my best tomorrow, I'm going to mess up on that presentation, I'm going to not be great at that meeting, and I'd keep thinking and thinking and thinking about this. And then when I did some research later on about what causes people to not get sleep, what causes insomnia, the number one cause of insomnia is worrying about insomnia.
Yes.
And so instead what I did was to start repeating a little mantra. Now, when I wake up in the middle of the night, here's what I say. I say, the body gets what the body needs. And I just repeat that to myself. The body gets what the body needs. Okay? Now, what did that do? That allowed me to be okay with the fact that, look, if my body woke up, it's because maybe I don't need more sleep. That's all right. And I'm not punishing myself. I'm not berating myself. But the important thing here is my job is to be in bed on time. So I have time in my calendar when I go to bed, and my job is to be in bed to give my body the opportunity to get the rest it needs. My job is the input. My body's job is the output. I can't control that. Now, what happened when I changed my attitude? I stopped ruminating. I stopped worrying. And you know where this story goes. I got back to sleep. And so by giving myself the opportunity to let my body get what it needs, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night. It's okay. I have a Kindle. I have a little e-reader by my desk. I don't use a phone. I don't use a tablet. Those things are not great. But I do have a book. Generally, it's a boring book that helps me fall back to sleep. And I relax. I just say, look, the body gets what the body needs. And now I have an opportunity to do a little reading on my Kindle or something. Now, how does this relate back to your question around creativity? Many of us, we don't give the input, and we're surprised we don't get the output. So just as if I wasn't in bed, allowing my body time to rest, and allowing for things out of my control to happen, and trusting that if the body needs more rest, it'll fall back asleep. The same is true when it comes to creative work. If I don't sit down at my desk to write, if I don't give myself that time, there's no way the creative output is going to happen. And so my job is not to make sure that this is going to be the best article ever, or I'm going to come up with the most amazing idea, or I'm going to be super creative right now. I can't control that. You know what I can control? Where I am when I say I will be here. That's my job. I have to be in this chair in front of my screen doing my work when I say I will. And you know what? The more I do that, the more the creative ideas come, the more creative I can become. So my job is not to plan for the outputs. You know, many people on their to-do lists, they say, you know, finish the chapter, finish this, do that. That's not the right way to do it. That's planning the output. What we have to plan is the input. So for me, the input is spend 2 hours writing. Not finish the chapter, spend 2 hours writing. If you're a painter, don't write down as your to-do, you know, make the most amazing painting ever. You can't control that. That's not in your control. You know what you can control? 2 hours painting. And so we should worry about the input, not the output. It's a big, big difference, and it's very important to differentiate.
Fantastic, fantastic. I would like to ask you the question that I asked in live with Robin Sharma. You know Robin Sharma, the writer of 5 a.m. Club and the monk who sold his Ferrari. I ask him because in our lives, if we schedule everything, we will become something like robots. We just make everything into a calendar and everything like this. And where will be the life that we are free? And
Yeah.
we will lose our freedom into our daily schedule and everything like this. How can a human being balance between the scheduling and also being free, something like this?
So Kierkegaard, the philosopher, said that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom.
Yes.
We think we want lots and lots of freedom, but that makes us anxious. When we have too much choice, we get nothing done. If you ask a painter, when is the most stressful part of painting? It's when you're staring at a blank canvas. For a writer, the hardest part is when you have a blank page. And so it turns out that constraints, in fact, make us free if we decide them. Okay, if it's somebody else's, then there's a different story. We don't like being in prison, but we do like having constraints that we impose. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't plan this time, it's not going to happen. Okay,
Yes.
It's not going to magically appear. We really don't have much of a choice here. You don't have to be creative. You don't have to be productive. You don't have to live your life the way you want to. You can be a slave to somebody else's schedule. But if you're the kind of person who wants to create something significant, who wants to live out their values, you have to do this. And the beauty of the time we live in with these amazing technologies is that, I'm not asking you to hunt your own food. I'm not asking you to chop down your own wood. All I'm asking you to do is to keep a schedule. It's not that hard.
Yes.
Right? It's like asking a trainer. You say, hey, do I really have to work out? Well, only if you want to get in shape. Right? Do you really have to keep a calendar? Well, only if you want to live a better life. Sorry.
So you will be So you will be free. Okay. So you will be free with the scheduling, and it's an irrational belief that with the scheduling I won't be free. Something like this. It is an irrational belief. Yes.
I think it's an irrational belief. And by the way, I'm not saying that all the things you need to schedule are to be productive. I'm not saying everything you do in your schedule is work. No. Far from it. If you want time to pray, if you want time to take a walk, if you want time to be with someone you love and be spontaneous with them, that's fine. So in my calendar, when I have 3 hours on my weekend to be with my wife. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe we'll go to a restaurant. Maybe we'll take a walk. Maybe we'll go to a museum. I don't know. So that part is spontaneous. But what I have done is committed to my values of being there for my partner. And so I know what I won't do with that time. I won't be on email. I won't be on Instagram. I won't be checking Facebook. I am going to be with my wife. Now, what we do with that time, that's up to us in the moment. So this is what I call spontaneity. And you can do this with every aspect of your life. If you want an entire Saturday to disconnect and be creative and be spontaneous, great, do it, plan for it. But if you don't plan for it, you think you're free? No, you're going to be on Instagram. That's what you're going to do with your time. You're going to be checking the news. You're going to be doing stuff you didn't plan to do.
Good. I have recently come up with a very great idea that is called POD. And it is productivity obsession disorder. These days we are, all people, all books, the seminars, the motivational speakers, and I don't know what to say about these people, but I'm not a fan of them. They are making people obsessively productive, something like this, or following the productivity. What do you say about POD? Is it good in your mind? Is it in your idea? Should we be that much productive in our life, or is it disorder or no? Is it becoming a disorder or no? Something like this.
I think I see way more people wasting their lives than I see people being overproductive. Now, what I do see some people doing, by the way, is that they become obsessed not with the productivity techniques, but with looking for advice.
Mm-hmm.
That I do see. People do become obsessed with self-help. And they think if I just get that one more book, if I attend one more seminar, if I attend one more conference, then someone will tell me the secret. There is no secret. If you want to have a better life, you got to do the fucking work. You got to do it. You have to do it without getting distracted. So even self-help advice can be a distraction. The idea here is to do whatever it is you say you want to do, not what some productivity guru says you should do, not what your parents or your boss or your kids say you should do, to do what is important to you in your life. But at the end of the day, you have to do the work, right? Whatever it is that you say you're going to do. If you want to be the kind of person who works out, you got to go work out. If you say you're going to be the person who, spends time with their family and is fully present with people and is a good friend, you have to do that, right? At the end of the day, you have to actually do it. Now, what people many times do is they put off doing things by consuming more and more and more advice. And that's not helpful. That is a distraction as well.
I will have just 2 more questions and done.
Sure.
If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
Sure. So if there's one thing I want people to remember from Indistractable, it's that the antidote to impulsiveness is forethought. That the problem of distraction is really about the problem of impulsiveness. We say we're going to do one thing, but then when the moment arrives, we give in. We say we're going to eat healthy, and yet when we're tempted by delicious food, we eat it. If we say we're not going to smoke, we're tempted, we give in. We're impulsive. But here's the thing. If you wait until that moment, it's too late. If the chocolate cake is on the fork and you're about to eat it, it's too late. If the cigarette is lit and you're about to take a puff, it's too late. If you sleep next to your cell phone, as close as you are to your lover, well, that's the first thing you're going to pick up in the morning. You've lost. So the antidote to any one of these potential temptations is planning ahead. This is really what one of the things that differentiates our species. No other animal on the face of the earth can do this. We can see into the future with greater fidelity than any other animal. We can predict what will happen better than any other animal on the face of the earth. And so we can leverage that power to make sure that we don't get distracted later on. So it's through these 4 methods of mastering the internal triggers, making time for traction, hacking back the external triggers, and preventing distraction with PAX. This is how we become indistractable, and it's all about forethought. It's about knowing in advance what might happen and taking steps today so that you don't become distracted tomorrow.
And designing the environment is in which part?
Designing the environment is about hacking back the external triggers. So the external triggers can be from your phone, they can be from your computer, they can be a workplace colleague. Many people work in these offices without walls, open floor plan offices. Your colleagues can be these external triggers. So there are many things that we can do to make sure that we don't become distracted by these external triggers by doing what I call hacking back the external triggers.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot for your time. Nir, it was awesome. It was really a great pleasure for me, and I hope soon we will meet each other in person and we will go ahead with our, with our life value to affect people in a very, very awesome way.
Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Have fun. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you. دوستان سلام دوباره. امیدوارم حالتون خوب باشه. امیدوارم که از این لایو استفاده کرده باشید. این کتاب Indistractable رو داریم برنامه‌ریزی می‌کنیم به زودی داخل بازار ایران ترجمه شده بیاریم. حالا هنوز با ناشر مشغول مذاکره هستیم که بتونیم حالا بیاریمش قانونی و حالا کسی دیگه هم نتونه حالا وارد این داستان بشه. امیدوارم که استفاده کرده باشید از این لایو. ما این لایو رو به صورت پادکست بهتون تقدیم خواهیم کرد و از این به بعد علاوه بر لایو هایی که با افراد اثرگذار در ایران ما داریم، با افراد اثرگذار در خارج از کشور، نویسنده های بزرگ، این خط و این مسیر رو من میخوام باز کنم که ما با وجود شرایط حالا یک کمی محدود، من خودم به شخصه اجازه نمیدم محدودیت ها تو مسیرم اثرگذار باشه و من ادامه میدم و این مسیر رو تا جایی که بتونم میبرم جلو و ممنونم از اینکه کنار من هستید، ممنونم از اینکه حمایت میکنید از تایم کوچ و ما قرارمون اینه که یه عالمه اتفاق خوب، یه عالمه اتفاق قشنگ دور هم دیگه داشته باشیم، زندگی خودمون رو دست خودمون بگیریم، نگذاریم حواس پرتی ها، نگذاریم چیزهایی که توی حوزه های مختلف زندگی افراد داره اثر میذاره روشون، نگذاریم که برنامه زندگیمون دست کس دیگه ای باشه، برنامه زندگیمون رو خودمون داشته باشیم و معنای اصلی آزادی اینه که ما برنامه زندگیمون دست خودمون باشه، کارهایی که میخوایم انجام بدیم دست خودمون باشه. اگه صبح از خواب بیدار میشیم و نمیدونیم که باید چیکار کنیم، قطعا یکی از مسیرهایی که میریم احتمالاً سراغ حواس پرتی هاست و صحبت اینجاست که ما قرار نیست به سمت حواس پرتی ها بریم، قراره از قبل حواس پرتی ها رو مدیریت کنیم، قراره از قبل یک کارهایی توی زندگی اون انجام بدیم که اون کارها به ما زمان بده، به ما حال خوب بده، به ما تو حوزه های مختلفی کمک بکنه و اینجاست که من میتونم یک زندگی غنی، یک زمان غنی رو برای خودم بسازم. این یک. و دو، که یه نکته خیلی خیلی مهم که توی لایوم با نیر خیلی مهم بود، این بود که خیلی وقتا ما برنامه‌ریزیمون روی خروجی داستانه، همین ویژن بوردایی که حالا تهیه میکنن رو در دیوارشون میزنن یا حالا هر اینا خروجی هاست. ما باید ورودی ها رو برنامه‌ریزی کنیم، ورودی ها رو براش یک کاری انجام بدیم و برای ورودی هامون برنامه‌ریزی کنیم. من 2 ساعت میخوام این کار رو انجام بدم، من روزی 20 دقیقه کتاب بخونم، من روزی 10 دقیقه مدیتیشن انجام بدم، کاری نداشته باشم که خروجی اون چیه. من میدونم که قطعا خروجی اون داستان خوب خواهد بود برای من. بچه‌ها دمتون گرم، خیلی خیلی مرسی واسه حضورتون، تک تکتون رو دوستتون دارم. امیدوارم که از این به بعد یک کارهای خیلی خفنی قرار انجام بدیم، شما هم کنار من باشید. دمتون گرم، خوب و خوش باشید. ایمان ابریشمچی هستم، تایم کوچ.